Hello everyone. Welcome to Musician Part 8. And joining me today is the absolutely awesome and good friend of mine, Mike LePond. How are you? How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. This is so much fun. We get to talk right on live on the air. It should be a great time. We've been friends for a really, really long time, and it's a pleasure to do this with you. And I thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I'm just like so honored, as I said before, that you've made the time. And I know we've been good friends for a long time. And I know a bit later down the line, we'll talk about working together. Of course, we've done a song together as well. And it's just great to have you. And it's a lovely day. Is it nice where you are? Is it good weather?
Yeah, it's a super hot day, but I love it hot. It can never be hot enough for me. So I'm loving it. I'm hanging out, just chilling out, and I'm in a good mood and looking forward to talking about some all the stuff that's going on in our lives.
Oh, no, me too. Me too. As many people that join us in this chat as we go along, you've done so much, over the whole span of your whole life so far. And I know when we do get to it, we'll be talking about your obviously new album. Um, yeah, like I remember talking to you recently, you've been doing a lot of stuff in the house and outside, haven't you, as well? You've been doing a lot of work on your home.
Yeah. So, funny story. So I move into a brand new home in the first week of March. And, usually a person is, you're afraid of the bills and all the stuff. But I was like, well, I got a Symphony X tour coming up. I got a Ross the Boss tour coming up. I'll be fine. And then, boom, the virus hits. Everything's canceled.
No.
Um, so I found a lot of time on my hands. So I'm not a very I'm not very good at fixing things and all that stuff, but I try, So, had a new home, so was fixing a lot of stuff outside the house just to keep busy. So I did that. Came out not bad for an amateur. And so I've been trying to keep busy. I've been writing a lot of songs too in my time, which I guess all of us have. And I've been eating too much. That's not so good. But other than that, but I've been trying to keep positive. And I know it's a depressing time for a lot of people, but keep yourself busy. Try to remain positive, and just always know that things are going to get better, and things will get back to normal eventually.
That's it exactly. And you were also saying about, like, writing material and stuff whilst obviously in lockdown. And have you probably saw a lot of bands, probably a lot of friends of yours as well, have been doing the same thing, like writing different songs and
Absolutely.
music and things like
Yeah. I wrote many songs. I mean, I put the time to good use. Yeah, and there's been many bands that have been telling me that they've been writing. We got a whole nother album written and things like that. The people who work online. With Symphony X, we don't really work online. We all get together and write together.
yeah.
The virus really kind of put the halt on what we were doing. But if you work with other guys online, maybe you live in different countries. You just put the time to good use. As I'm sure you worked on a lot of music as well, right?
Oh, definitely. Before actually we went on the no discussing that, I was very fortunate, even though I was actually, because I had a part-time job as well, or I have a part-time job as well. I do like I've been caring for my mum and brother, and in between that, when I had a moment, I was writing a lot of music and doing other little projects for other people and other musicians, and it was really it's been really elevating in that sense. And Even though obviously everything going on is very sad with the virus and the lockdown, it's on a positive note, people being able to be creative and use that time positively if they, you know, the best way they can, even if times are hard. So I think that's really important.
I absolutely agree. You know, you want to try to keep a good mental attitude, stay positive, and you know, for a musician, it always feels good to write a song that you're proud of. You know, so you know, you always have to try take a negative and turn it into a positive, and that's what that's what I've been trying to do.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, like I said, that's what you got to kind of do in these times. You know, be there for each other, keep yourself healthy. I know you said about eating bad food, and eating a lot of food. I say maybe bad food, but a lot of food. I think a lot of people have. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's trying to find ways to support one another, be positive, and keep doing what we love the best we can, and you know, and be there for one another. So I think that's, as you said, spot on, really. And I was going to say, we also have in the chat Chris Hampton says, "Good evening, gentlemen." So Chris Hampton, he's in the chat. He says, "Good evening."
Hello, Chris.
How you doing? He's another bass player. He's actually from another band, a UK band from Terrebonne. I think it's Terrebonne. He's
awesome.
And I think before he found out, you know, whilst doing a live stream, he was like, "This is awesome. This is great." Because he's a big fan, and yeah, no, he's definitely. I've actually performed with him. My old band, Winter's Edge. Chris was a substitute bass player one time, a few times. So yeah, he's a very good bass player. So
oh, that's great.
For you later.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love bass questions, right? Bass players, there's not enough bass players in the world, but the good news about that is we get all the jobs.
I love it.
Right? Right? There's like this. I guess the bass is maybe not that glamorous an instrument, maybe, but you know, everybody needs one, so that's why we're here.
Actually, it's really. I had this conversation with someone quite recently that when you're especially when quite a few years ago when I was starting, it was really hard to find certain members in a band. I don't know, what was it like if you remember like your first band you were ever in? Do you remember the process of like, was it easy getting people? Because I always found it tricky. It was always either a drummer was hard to find or a keyboard player. What was it like?
I remember, you know, before I joined Symphony X, and I was still on the local metal scene here in New Jersey, New York. I was in a band called Brute Force, and we tried to find a guitar player for 2 years. We could not find a guitar player. We would have all these guitar players down, and it just personality-wise just wasn't clicking. And it was so frustrating because I mean, there's a lot of guitar players out there, but it just didn't happen, and it actually caused the breakup of the band. But yeah, finding people is always tricky because it's like you're inviting someone into your family, and so you have to be able to work with them musically and emotionally, and you know, you want to be good friends too, because it only helps, I think, the music in the end. So, but I feel for the bands that have trouble finding people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right. It's like one thing I learned, especially maybe at first I didn't, because when you're young, I think my very first band I was in, I was like 13 or 12. I was very young age. I think when I got older, I realized that bond you have to have, like that connection, that it's not about just enjoying yourself. It's about having that connection and thinking ahead and going, can I see myself years to come with the same members, the same energy? and it's as you you know, per band you've got more of that, and you know, and learn more on the way. So I absolutely 100% know what you're on about. Absolutely. It's always tricky when you take your time and you find someone, you're like, yeah, they gel, you know, great, you know.
Yeah, you know, and I remember I would be in a band, and not only were we a band, you know, after rehearsal, we would all go out to the local metal bar, you know, and we'd be watching the bands, we'd be looking for girls, and you know, we'd just be having a great time, and really helped the music in the end, because we were just like, we were all for one and one for all. And I think that's really important in a band.
Oh, definitely. No.
Now on the other side of that, when you're younger, that's a lot easier to do. Now, when you get older, and a lot of the guys start having their own families, wives, kids, now it's kind of it's hard to really gel the way you used to when you were younger. But I think if you still love the music and you have a mutual respect for everybody, it's great.
Literally spoken as a pure gentleman, just it's exactly that you know, can't even like that, because that's what it's like, isn't it? That's exactly, you know,
Yeah,
that's the process.
sure.
You know,
I mean,
it's and I was going to say as well, like with as you know, probably back when you first started being in bands, you probably saw how other people approach bands in the way, and sometimes you're like, that's not, you know, that's not the right process. And then about a year later, that band would break up. You know, you'll hear like, and you're like, oh, they're actually a really good band, but it obviously wasn't there. That magic wasn't there. You know.
right. So, it's a learning process. And when you were saying that, it made me go back in time, and I'm thinking, you know, a lot of times uh, there would be these bands that had really good songs, good musicians, but they were just not in control of themselves. You know, uh, drug drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and they, you know, just they were all over the place. And you know, you can have a band only for so long, and a band is only as good as its weakest link. So, you know, these bands would just abuse themselves, and just, I don't even know how they would survive that long, but eventually it will catch you, and you will, and you know, you're not going to make it. The bands that are going to make it are the ones that just are focused, and they have a clear goal, and they don't deviate from that goal.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's sad, especially because I know, like, you know, I was born in 1986, so you know, I got into the later bands, you know, that a lot of people that, you know, I've got to get to know and play shows with stuff, you know, have been influenced by like Iron Maiden and all the 80s, and obviously I wasn't in that generation, as in, you know, to go to shows, but it's sad, isn't it, when you hear the stories of, like you said, like the drug abuse and the drinking, especially in you know, back then, where, and some of these iconic bands, like what they went through, and they were just phenomenal musicians, but they had issues. They had either drug or drinking and or violence.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very sad. You know, do you feel that now in 2020, do you feel times are better in that respect? How things are approached now with musicians?
Yes, I do. Um, it's I see a big difference. I was I was born in 1966, so I see a big difference from when I was playing in bands in the 1980s and the 90s. In the 80s, it was really bad with the drugs, but then in the 90s, it got a little better, and then in the 2000s, it got even better. And I think now it's actually wonderful, because I'd say most metal bands now are not crazy partying. They're not abusing drugs and alcohol. They're a lot more in control. And it's great to see. You know, you'll go on a tour bus now, and some of the guys will be drinking coffee instead of, you know, whiskey. You know, some of them still drink whiskey, and that's fine, you know, but everybody is in control of themselves, and they're just not going crazy. And I think it's making for better music in the end. And I'm really happy to see that. Another thing I'm happy to see is when in the 1980s, a lot of the metal fans were very rebellious, you know? So it wasn't only the bands that were partying, it was the fans. But now they're a lot calm, you know what I mean? They're a lot they're just more into the music, and they're less into the crazy partying, you know? So I think from the 80s till now, it's all very, very positive.
No, I agree with you. I feel like, you know, I always ask those, like, you know, speak to people that were like and touring, especially back in the 80s enough, because obviously I wasn't doing all that, you know, I was still in the 80s, yeah, 80s, 1986, I would have been by 94. So, you know, it's always good to, like, you know, when you see it, when you're older, you're like, you know, I wasn't in that era. You see it, you're like, wow, that's crazy. You know, the stuff that went down, like, you know, the stories of Ozzy and, you know, Megadeth and, you know, all these other bands, what they went through. And it was just, you know, Guns N' Roses, another one, you know, it's just, yeah, you wouldn't think, you know, it's that kind of world, but it really was. Like, you know, people had issues, and it was completely different. And like you said, I think now I do, obviously I think health and safety is a lot more involved with this, you know, this generation. It's a lot more stricter, but I think people have like realized, you know, it's about health, you know, putting on a good show, being professional and being nice. You know, one of my I'm sure you know Tony Dolan, you know, a good friend of mine, a mentor, and Gary King. Both of them have said to me, be a nice guy, always be a nice guy. You know, that's how people remember you. You know, they don't, you know, you don't, you know, everyone has their moment, but it's good to be a good person the whole time, because that's what people remember. You know, so if you're playing all these shows in different bands, they're always going to go, you know, that's, you know, yourself, Mike LePond, or me, or whoever it is, and say they're great guys. You're genuinely lovely people. You know, and I think that's so important in the industry, especially, you know, the music industry.
Yeah, yeah. What you're saying is so true. And by the way, you're one of the nicest guys I know, just so your fans know. Um, but
Oh,
yeah, you know,
thank you.
what people think of you is very important. Um, there's a lot of musicians out there that are very humble. They're genuinely good people. A perfect example is when I met Ronnie James Dio, the one time I ever met him. And quick little story, Symphony X and Dio were playing in the same city one night, different shows, but same city. And we finished our set first, and we went over to see Dio. And one of our roadies used to work for him, so he got us backstage. Now Dio didn't know who Symphony X was. We're talking like 2003. You know, as soon as we walked in, the first thing he did that impressed me was he hugged all of us, one at a time. He hugged us. And you could immediately tell that this guy was a genuinely good human being. And, you know, he had meet and greets to do, he had stuff to do, but he blew it all off to give us advice about music and be a host. And it's something that I will never, ever forget. So ever since that night, I always try to model myself after how Ronnie James Dio was to us. Just always be nice, be humble, and don't forget where you come from. You know, I don't care whether I'm in Symphony X or what band. I always go on the local scene here, and I support all the bands. And a lot of times I'll come up on stage and play songs with the bands and have fun. You don't want to be the egomaniac. You don't want to be that guy that just thinks, you know, because I'm a singer or whatever, I'm this, you know, I get to get special privileges, or, you know, because people will remember that just as much as your music, you know. So never forget where you come from. Always show people respect. And, you know, because the people you meet on the way up, you'll meet them on the way down.
just again, absolutely spot on and just absolutely perfectly accurate. It's just that's exactly what you got to, be like. It makes you feel better as a person, to know that you've done these shows with either your icons or just generally bands, a local band or whoever it is. It's just that love, isn't it? And respect, and the fact that they look back and go, Mike LePond's a decent guy. Jez is a decent guy. All these people are just, I think it's so important, because I think, as you probably know, seen probably more than I have, is you probably seen people that you've worked with down the line that were okay, and then now they've changed probably, and they're a bit different than what they were, and you kind of miss the old version of them. I've definitely seen a few people like that, and I kind of feel sad, because I'm like, I remember when they were decent, and so I think it's so important as a musician to always be remembered as a good person, and not get sidetracked because of something changes in your career or whatever.
Yeah, you got to remember, once you once you become successful in the music business and you turn pro, people will listen to your music, and a lot of them really will look up to you. Maybe they don't know who you are. I mean, maybe they never met you in person, but they will really look up to you because your music has touched them in some way. Maybe in school, people are bullying them, so they come home and they shut the door and they listen to your music and they feel better. So when you meet them, when you play in a city and you meet them, they've been waiting for this for months. For some me, it's the next date on the tour. We're all tired, not enough sleep, the whole thing with the tour. But you have to always be on top of your game, because when you meet someone, this is something that's super exciting for them. So just tell them, just show them that you appreciate them. Don't just, like, if they ask you for an autograph, give them an autograph, because without them, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing, And the people that you give autographs to, when you come back, they'll be there. The band that just runs to the bus and splits, the fans may not be there the next time, So, and like you said, it does feel good to make people happy. I mean, sometimes when I'm on the stage with Symphony X, I see people in the audience and I see their reactions, and some of them are crying because they're so happy. And it's something it's something that it's so hard to imagine that I'm blessed enough to be able to touch people's lives like that. So I'm so lucky, and in the end, it's like you say, just be nice and just be humble and just be yourself.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I know you said I'm one of the loveliest people, you've met, got to know, and I'm blessed to be your friend. Like, you are just awesome and lovely guy. And thank you, obviously, to Alexandra, who we're both friends with, for introducing you to me, and things like that. And obviously, I know later we'll talk about working together. But when I met you, which was 2000, I think it was 2019, wasn't it, when you played in London?
Yeah.
And your London show in Camden, exactly as you said, after your show, you were there, and yourself and various other members of the band, and you were there for the fans, and you will wait and you'll say hello to all of them, and as you said, you'll sign autographs and have a chat with everyone. And obviously me and Nick from Winter's Edge saw you and had a good chat. And it's hard, isn't it? You're tired, you've been doing a long tour, but you do it because it's the love for the fans and respect what they give back. You're giving them your music, and in return you get that love, that fan love. And I admire it, because I saw you, and you must have been so tired, and you were there, you were just supporting everyone and just being there, making the time for every single person before you went to your bus. And that's like you said, that there's lots of fans that don't do that. They just go, so it's lovely.
Yeah, well, because and I think about if I was a fan and I was waiting for, let's say I was waiting for Rob Halford at his tour bus, and if he just left, even though I don't know him personally, I would be kind of hurt, I'd be like, oh wow, I mean, this guy's my hero, and but yeah, exactly, the tours are grueling. Half the tours, within a week of the tour, I start getting sick because there's just so much. There's hardly any sleep, always moving around. But once the show is over, you're tired. You would just want to go in the bus and lay down. But you see these people who are looking at you, and this is their one chance to talk to you. So I would never deny someone that. And yeah, it was cool talking to you after the show. That was a fun show. That was a really fun show. I had a good time doing that. And, I hope we could come back. I hope we could come back soon. I mean, with the virus, it kind of erased a year, right? So hopefully, I mean, every time Symphony X has toured anywhere overseas, it's just been so much fun. We're so lucky because, we're a very well-respected band. We have tremendous respect, and we're known as a players band, and so we always get people who really, really have Symphony X in their heart, and it's so awesome. It's and it never goes away. I've been in the band for 20 years now, and we still get the same response. People just, it doesn't matter how long between albums. Sometimes we take forever. This next album will probably be the longest, but people still come out, and it's just incredible.
It's cool. Like when I saw you, because I think the show that I saw had Savage Messiah were playing, and I think they opened up the show, and they're a great bunch as well. They're great guys, and yeah, it was just such a great show. As you said, it's electric. Was it Electric Ballroom? It was Electric Ballroom, I think, wasn't it, in Camden? And yeah, it was just great energy, and even though touring, as you said, it's very tiring. Like you said, in a week, it does take a lot out of you. You give it all your best, 100% every time. And like you said, you love playing everyone. So hopefully, fingers crossed, when this all starts getting more of a normality and everything is back, you'll be able to come back over, all of you, and play the UK. I'm sure so many fans in the UK really want Symphony X back. I'm certain of it. I totally do. So, and but also as a fan of Ross the Boss as well, which you're also in Ross the Boss. That's another good band, like really great. Just yeah. Awesome.
With Ross, when I was in high school and in college years, Manowar was always one of my favorites of all time. I would close the door to my bedroom. I put the bass on. I put Manowar on, and I'd start playing. And I would feel like I'm in the band or something. And the funny thing is now, 30 years later, I look over and like there's the guy, like there's the guitar player, and I'm playing with the guitar player. So it's like this, it's almost like a movie. It's so weird, playing Manowar songs with Ross. It's incredible. It's also a big responsibility because Joey DeMeo is such an amazing player, and he's loved so much. So I know that I have to play his stuff as close to what he did as possible. So that's always a challenge too. But so far the response has been, it's been like 100% just great. And, I just love jamming with him, and it's fun to play. It's fun to play with all these different musicians and bands because I have different roles in all these different bands. So I think in the end, whether it's arranging or writing or anything like that, it just makes me a better musician in general.
Absolutely. And I can imagine it's also helped you when you started Silence Assassin, which you will get onto very shortly. It's helped you in that aspect when doing Symphony X, Ross the Boss, all the other various bands you've been in, which I'll list a few, but there's a lot in there that you've done guest work for and stuff. Like you said, you've had different roles, and probably also doing tours and filling in as a bassist at times before even being a member of a band, or even for helping a band along the way somewhere. You've had all these different roles. As you said earlier, we were saying about bass players, is that being a bass player, there's so few of them that there's so much work. So it's so demanding. So it's great for you, because it's like, they might go, can you do some vocals? And you're like, yeah, or and add to that like live experience and things like that, and not just play bass. Or it might be, can you write something slightly different, for the live shows? Yeah, it must be a great feeling to take all that knowledge and then apply it into your own stuff.
Yeah, because all these people I work with, they have different approaches to what they do. Many of them record differently. Many of them act differently on stage. And so for the most part, I have to adapt to what's going on. But I'm so used to seeing everything. I think I've seen mostly everything by now. I kind of know what to do. So whatever they need from me, I kind of could just jump right into it. With the Silent Assassins, my goal was I wanted to show my fans that I'm not just a progressive metal bass player, because that's what I was known for, which is understandable, of course, in being with Symphony X. But my influences were all just like classic heavy metal, I was the Sabbath, Priest, Maiden guy, and my bass playing influences all came from there. So I had a lot of songs that didn't really fit Symphony X. They were too simple and straight ahead. So I wanted to show the fans where my influences came from. So these solo albums that I do, I'm on the third one now. It's like classic heavy metal, classic power metal. And I also have some folky influences in there, some folk kind of stuff, because I'm really influenced by Blackmore's Night. So it's like doing that band is great for the soul. It just gets all my influences out, everything out of me, So, it's always a proud moment for me after, and this too. You get an idea in your head for a song, but by the time you demo it, then you record it. You got to get all these guys to record it. You got to get guys to mix it, master it. Then you got to release it. You're looking at a year later. So
yeah,
on a release day, I finally get all these songs out of my head and out to the people, right?
It's such a process. I remember, I don't know if it's the same with you, but when I finished my first solo album ever, which was the Ferryman's Dice of Wind's Edge, I had the physical copy, and I left it on a table for 3 months before I heard it again. And I think it's like you said, because it's such a long process, I was so excited that I had it and I achieved and worked with all these musicians, who I'm grateful to this day. I was blown away. So I couldn't even listen to the record. I was just like, I heard it so many times in the mixing process. As it's a long process. And I was just, starstruck, in the fact that, wow, this is my baby. I've achieved this. And by the time you get to like recently, you're just like there. You're just like, well, it's out there now. Wow, it's there,
And I want to add something to what you're saying, right? Now, I did the same thing. Now, once I had the CD in my hands, I put it away and I didn't want to hear it, because I know that if I listen to it, I'm going to find something and say, oh man, that's too loud. Oh man, I hear I hear
Yeah.
scratching noise there, like a crazy person. So I don't even want to listen to it after that. I just put it down. Maybe a
Yeah.
few months later, um, I'll listen to it for whatever reason. But it's weird because they say an album is really a work of art. It's never finished. It's just your
No.
decision when you want to walk away from it. So it's like you try not to drive yourself crazy, right? I mean, when I was doing this album, I would have the headphones on, and I'd be hearing things that the mixing engineer thought I was crazy, and he was right. So once I had a mixing engineer that I could trust, and he would say, "Listen, man, no one's going to hear what you're hearing," and I was like, "Okay, I'll time to let it go," and you
Yeah.
know. But then it's like as soon as it's finished, the album, you kind of lose interest and you want to go write another one. You think so?
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I was. As you said, like you put it down, you have it, the physical, and then I didn't want to go near it because, as you said, not just because I was like shocked that I had it, but I was like, didn't want to hate anything that I missed or go, no, man, I've done this. And so I even now when I listen to the early stuff, if I do it's almost like I don't do it on purpose. It's someone's playing it or something. I love hearing the old songs I've done, but I don't want to go back like you don't. It's out of the way, it's done. It's the love of it was there when it was out, and it's still, there's love for certain songs is still there now, but it's done. It's move on, move forward. And exactly as you said, I think over time it's probably the same for you because obviously I know we'll talk about it, but you work a lot with Michael Romeo on this, on your site Assassins, and certain people are engineers I like to work with because, as you know, when you're in charge of everything, you go, oh, that's not quite right, that's not quite right, and eventually you'll go mad, as you were saying. So you need someone that'll be like, no, Jez, relax, you're not hearing what I'm hearing, it's fine. And then I'm like, relax. You'll
Yeah.
go back, and it'll be like 7 years the album's out, or 10 or 12 years, later. You'd be forever for things. So yeah, I know exactly on that.
Yeah. It's I'm very lucky to have Michael Romeo. Michael Romeo is such an amazing musician and such a talent that if he tells me something, I say okay. That's it. He says it, so it's got to be true. Um, so it's important to have that, and I also have a different guy to mix it. So I'm getting two guys who I really really respect, and so but this new album, Whore of Babylon, is my third album, um, and it's actually put out by a label from the UK, Silver Lining
Okay.
Music. Um, and I got to be honest with you, I've never been treated better in my life. This label, they've got some big bands like Saxon, I know is one of their bands. Um,
Yeah.
they've treated me so well, and I can really feel that they're behind the album. They're really behind it, and so it makes me want to work really, really hard for them. I've been doing a lot more on social media with their help because I was never really good with social media. I was kind of shy, but they kind of helped to push me out there, and that's going great.
Yeah.
And I think this is the first solo album that has a real chance of doing some good numbers and selling some good numbers because they're so behind it. So I'm really excited. The feedback's been really really great. Very lucky, and it's a weird time to release an album, right? In the middle of the virus, kind of weird. Is it a good idea or a bad idea? I this is what was my decision. I was like, let's put it out. I think people are home. They want to hear some good music. They're looking for it. Let's give it to them.
Absolutely, and I think there's been, like, as you've probably seen, a few bands doing that, a bit like we were talking about, right? And I think people have certain bands have been slowly bits and bobs, but I think actually you've timed it really well, because I think everyone was eager for your next album to come out, because obviously all your other work has been so brilliant. And yeah, I just think, well, I'm wearing a t-shirt, I've got my t-shirt, and I've got the
Thank you.
albums, and it was just, yeah, no, it's such a cool package, which we would go on to later, and but I think you timed it well, because I think people are, that everyone's handling, obviously, being at home or in lockdown or working through these hard times differently. And I think all these positive things, like yourself releasing music and other people, and just generally anyone writing, it's a really positive thing. So I think people were eager to get their hands on things, and I think, some your material, I think everyone's wanted. So I think everyone was happy, and I think from what I know and what I've seen, it's doing really well. Your lyrical videos and the videos are brilliant. Like you said, the company that your labels you with and everyone, they're doing such a great job with everything, and you're so happy with them, as you were saying. And I think, how do you feel? Do you feel that it was the right thing to do? Do you feel that, were you like, yeah, actually, no, I'm happy. I'm at that point where actually I timed it okay, and I think people wanted it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very comfortable in making that decision to put it out during the virus, because some of the things we're talking about. I think people, they want to look for some music. They're home, they're climbing the walls, and they want to hear some music. Um, so I would encourage bands, not to worry about it. Just put your music out. So now, the music's out. Now, hopefully in the future, do some shows. Right now I'm just kind of sitting back and waiting to see what happens. But yeah, once things open up, I would love to do some shows, maybe some opening slots with some bigger bands, or maybe a cool festival over there overseas. Um, so I'm up for anything, and we'll see what the future brings. And but for now, it's cool. I got to put out an album with a bunch of songs that I wrote sitting in my room.
And I love it. I think it's great, especially someone like yourself that's, in, like, as we were talking about Symphony X before, a bigger band than a lot of other bands that are out there that are doing really well. And to, and someone like yourself to kind of reassure people, especially like unsigned bands or small bands, say, hey, it's okay to, release something, and don't be afraid to do your research, do the right thing by obviously researching and doing the marketing, but also don't be afraid to actually release it, because I think people are out there to support one another. It just might not always seem that way. And I think, as you've probably seen, not just from me buying your your albums and stuff, but other people and your fans that the love for your new album and your previous work. So that if you're doing it, other people shouldn't be afraid to do it. And I think it's great that you're one of those people look up to and go, Mike's doing it. Why am I holding back? It shouldn't be afraid. And I think we need that. We need that positivity, don't we? I think it's a good thing, because a lot of people are handling the situation differently, that we're all facing a worldwide pandemic. So I think it's lovely that you've kind of made that decision and gone, I'm going to release it. And as I said, it's great. I've played it. I literally spent. I'm not. It wasn't just because obviously I was talking to you today. I was at early hours in the morning, yesterday, this morning, the day before. Like even watching the videos, because it's just such great music. It's brilliant. So no, I bet you're really chuffed. And but also excited the fact that it's probably inspired you to write more music.
Yeah, it's it's like we were talking before we went on the air.
Yeah.
Once you write an album and you see it coming to life, slowly but surely, it's coming to life. and I think it inspires you to write more. So I was able to write a lot more songs that I really like, and it's just a musician. That's the way we are. We get this song in our head, and it tortures us until we release it, right? So but whoever is listening to this, who has the record, I hope you enjoy it, and it was a pleasure making it, and thank you for all your support.
No, I think whoever has this record is going to love it, and I know in a minute we're going to the storytelling of the album and everything. I was going to say, shall I look at some of the comments and see if you wanted to answer some questions to your fans?
Oh, awesome! Yeah.
I'll go. I'll see if I can follow them. If not, I'll do it off there. But I'm going to have to see if I can find it. Technology these days. That's the great thing about having all this, isn't it? It's having the technology. So,
yeah.
Right. Let me get a bit closer. Here we go. Right. I'm going to scroll back. Wow, you've got a lot of messages. Okay, so Chris Hampton from us said, big fan of Symphony X, and my band Terrorborn has a new album coming out very soon. Question for Mike: what Symphony X song is your favorite to play live?
That's a nice question. It always changes, because sometimes we play a song every night, and I love it at the beginning of the tour. At the end of the tour, I'll hate it because we've been playing. I really love playing from Underworld, In My Darkest Hour. I love that song. So that's my favorite to play at this moment. You ask me tomorrow, it'll probably change.
Fantastic. Good answer. Good answer. We got Peter Lancaster. I think that's actually my engineer, funny enough. I think that's my my recording engineer for when I record the albums normally. He's a brilliant guy, Peter. He said, awesome to see and hear Mike LePond. Jez, Mike, you're right. You are the nicest bloke I know as well. It's always a pleasure to work with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Of course, because Peter, when we did the Last of Full track together, Peter was the engineer that went through with Mark all the music and all the tracks. So yeah, it was it must have been really lovely for him to have your bass and Josh drums and all these layers for the song. So yeah,
that's great. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, I'm very proud of it. It just we talk a bit later. It's just such a uplifting. I'm so proud of it. Like it's definitely my best work yet. So again, from the heart, very grateful for you to be part of that.
Congratulations, man. Congrats.
Thank you. Chris again has said, definitely want to see Symphony X next time they tour. Been a fan since I'm gonna see if I can read this. How do you pronounce it? Is it Iconoclast? Oh yeah,
Iconoclast.
That's
Iconoclast. Yeah, Iconoclast was a double album that we put out, and that was hard to record, man. That was Romeo wrote some really hard riffs on that record. So, but that's awesome. Well, the next time we come out there, let's say hello, man. Let me shake your hand. That's all.
There you go, Chris. So if you're hearing this, definitely. Well, maybe I actually live like 20 minutes from Chris, so maybe we all come out together and we're going to hang out.
Yeah, and bring your CD. I'd love to hear your music too.
Oh man, thank you. I'll definitely bring some bits. Yeah, absolutely. And you still have the necklace? Remember the necklace I gave you?
Yes, I still have it. Absolutely. Thank you again. I had forgotten about it because I haven't worn it in a long time, but thank you.
No, you're welcome. No, it's great that, it's a lovely little gift to give you. To have work with you as well is just great. So it was a nice little thing for our first meeting ever. you know, after all these years, obviously, of talking over the social media and the messages, and it was just, yeah, lovely, as we were saying before, you and your fans. Teddy Bates says, hi, which do you think is the most underrated, underappreciated Symphony X album? God bless.
Well, yeah, first of all, Teddy Bates is another really good friend of mine. He's like the my brother from another mother kind of type thing. So Teddy, and I know you knew he would ask some tough questions, you know. The most underrated Symphony X album. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the most underrated Symphony X album. That's a really good question, man. I'm going to say Twilight in Olympus. That was an album that, from what I was told, you know, they had to record that album fast. There was like only a short amount of time, but it's got some really cool songs on there. You know, my favorite song on that album is an album that we've never played live, but it's my favorite. It's called The Relic. So check that song out. Really cool chorus on that song. Thanks, Teddy.
Hello, Teddy, and thank you. Well, I think that's all the questions to date so far. As you know, when we met, I told you what my favorite album was, which was obviously Paradise Lost. It's just such a cool album, you know. It's got so much in there, like it's just awesome, you know. It's just such a good album, and it's to this day I still find that's the album that I gel to the most. But obviously literally over everything you guys have all done in Symphony X is just everything's hard, isn't it? It's like, it's hard to say my favorite, but the one I gel to the most is Paradise Lost. I think it's just not just like the music, the artwork, the layout, just everything, the way the songs are put together. How do you feel about that when you play those songs? Do you kind of feel like, you know, that when you did that album, you know, playing live, where you're like, this is a really just start to finish, just
that album was a huge album for us. When it first came out, it like exploded, and I consider that album to be like the next phase of Symphony X that we were going through. It our sound kind of went to a more updated, more power metal type of a sound. And I think overall it's arguably the best album. Arguably. It's got some incredible songs on there. And with that album, our popularity really went through the roof. And we had some great tours off that album. We did a great opening slot with Dream Theater that went across Europe. And I think we actually had a headlining tour also. Did so much on that tour. Went to South America, everywhere, and the response was great. Like the songs were great for live, you know, to be on stage. They were so explosive. And even till this day, when we play a song, well, from not only that album, when we play a song from an older album, it takes me back to that time and emotions that I had during that time, or people that I've met. These songs are like time capsules, and they just take you to the past, and you just have the most incredible memories. I've met the most wonderful people in the world because of Symphony X. You know, people all over the world, every continent, and they've become really good friends of mine. And it's one of the most beautiful things that ever happened in my life. And I'm just so lucky, and I just have all the fans and all my friends to thank for that. Thanks.
Well, we thank you for the music you do. It's, as I said, being a fan, seeing you live, and what's quite, we're talking about working with someone you idolize. Well, you're someone I idolize because I got into that album probably around the time that I obviously was getting to know you, and then we end up working together years later. You know what I mean? So it's that lovely bond. It's such a an inspiration of mine, and and it's really great because obviously I'm a guitarist, you're a bass player, but it's just I'm very touched by the way you play and your techniques and everything. And so when I got to know who you were, and then I was loving the Symphony X album, so I was like, now I'm working with someone that inspires me. So I thank you for that. It's
my
just
pleasure.
lovely, and it's great what we're talking about earlier. Being inspired by someone, and then you end up meeting them or working with them, and it's just a great feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great working with you. I hope I could work with you again. I'm just, I think this year, let's see. So I think March 6th, the Ross the Boss album came out. March 13th, another one of my bands, Dead Risen, came out. And that's a cool too. Then, of course, June 26th, we had Mike LePond's Silent Assassins, or of Babylon. And I think there's a few more that are going to come out. There's going to be in, I think, November, you're going to have a band called Death Dealer, which actually Ross is in that band too. So that'll be coming out. So, I'm so lucky on all these projects. I just love heavy metal. So, I just love doing it.
Oh, I think it's great. I like it. You're saying about Dead Risen, and when I saw that album came out, I was like, this is awesome. Like, it's great. And of course the Ross the Boss, the latest Ross the Boss album, that great album. And then of course Whore Babylon that I've got, and a brilliant album. Absolutely, just I think you must feel so great and lucky to be not only working with these great musicians, but being on these great albums. Like, they're solid albums. Every single one of them are just great material.
Yeah, if 30 years ago somebody said, you're going to be a well-known bass player in the world of heavy metal, I would say you're crazy. It was always my dream to be in the world of heavy metal, but I never thought I would I never thought I would actually achieve it. And it's just the greatest feeling in the world to be on an album that people hear all over the world. So it's just incredible. And I have no plans on stopping. My Whore of Babylon album, you could find it anywhere you want. It's all over the place, wherever you get your music. Or you could just go to Mike LePond's SilentAssassins.com, which the record company was nice enough to start that for me. They've just done such great things for me. If you like, well, basically all styles of heavy metal. If you like any style of heavy metal, I think you'll find it on the Whore of Babylon album. There's so many different styles, and maybe your listeners, your fans, could check it out and let me know what they think of it.
Oh, definitely. I was going to say that one question I wanted to talk about isn't it about the Book of Revelations? Is that correct? With the Whore of Babylon, if correct, there's that element in there.
Yes, the title track, Whore of Babylon. And I apologize for this in advance, but the title track has no guitar in it. Sorry. So, the interesting thing about that track, it's got a 4-string bass, it's got an 8-string bass, and it's got the keyboard strings, and of course the vocals. But yes, that song is about the Whore of Babylon, which is a figure from the Book of Revelation. And it's interpreted in different ways, but the way I interpreted it is this beautiful woman, beautiful Middle Eastern woman that will seduce you and takes you to hell, pretty much like all my ex-girlfriends.
So wow, so that's kind of wow. So that's kind of how you got the idea from doing the whole Babylon.
Right. So, but every song on the album has its own concept, and so each song deals with either history, mythology, or literature.
Yeah.
I was never really good at writing stuff about introspective things, like we were talking about before we went on the air. Introspective stuff, I think my life is, I don't really have anything where I'm tortured, just a tortured soul. So I like to tell stories. And then what I like to do, and I started to do this a little later, is kind of write out an outline or maybe the lyrics first before the music, and then just kind of write like a metal movie to it. So that's been fun. So a lot of these songs are conceptual, and then other ones are just, right in your face, 3 minutes in and out. So it was, it was a lot of fun. A lot of these lyrics I had laying around for many years. They were originally intended for Symphony X, but they just never got used for whatever reason. So I just used them up all now.
That's actually a really good way of like writing and saving up for those, like having those lyrics there and getting inspiration on different things. Because obviously your previous albums are different subjects as well. So was that just the thing you just come across, or was it the process? Is it kind of just like you started liking the idea of this and then you just moved on to another idea, or is it like I know we were talking about like you'll hear a song in a film and then it might inspire you to write something for a particular song theme. Was it that kind of process? Because if I remember correctly, I saw one of your videos about in your home with the pictures of the horror characters on your wall. You
yeah, if you look at my wall behind me,
yeah.
Can you see my wall behind me? That's where all the monsters are. I'll put my head down.
I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I'll just write a riff, a heavy metal riff, and I'll put some parts together, and then it'll just be sitting there waiting for lyrics. And then other times, maybe I'll watch a documentary on TV, and I'll write down some lyrics, and then it'll be waiting for music to be written to it. I think it keeps everything kind of fresh because it kind of, there's two ways you could approach each way, like if I have the lyrics in front of me, I could make the music fit each line, make it, if the first verse is dark, we'll make it dark. If the first verse is happy, music happy. But if you already have the music, you kind of just fit some lyrics in there. It could be about anything. So, both kind of work. I don't really have a preference. I like doing both, though, because it keeps the album fresh and different.
No, I love that. Like when you hear both albums, you can see the storytelling and the themes. And as you know, as we were talking before we went on the live stream, I was saying we're talking about lyric writing, and that I've got writer's block at the moment, and that I love writing and storytelling like yourself. And I think it's such an important element. But like you said, when you're trying to cram it all into one song, but you can't. Either the song doubles over two songs, or you shorten it to the point that you can't. Yeah, so it must be exciting to do like all the themes and try and write and come up with all these things that will work for especially when you did Horror Babylon. And I presume you've done that, taken to your next side of writing when you start writing for the next album and next album, you'll have those processes and you'll keep evolving.
Yeah, you kind of come up with a formula of how you like to write, how you like to record. And you try to keep challenging yourself, like, all right, this chorus sounds just like the other one I wrote. You want to try to change chords, try to find something different. You listen to, and that's what we were talking about earlier too. Keep listening to music, all the new bands, go back and listen to the old bands, different styles. Sometimes listen to movies, like you were saying, or even just like a classic rock song, and you'll hear chord changes. You say, wow, that would sound pretty good in heavy metal. Think about like Billy Joel or Elton John, the amazing chord changes they have in some of their songs. You could put all that into heavy metal. I mean, the sky is the limit. Just don't stop learning. Just don't get stale. Too many of these guys, once they turn pro, they stop listening to everything. And you know what? You could hear it in the music because every song sounds the same.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Actually, because that's something that coming from you, you're probably going to know more than someone like that. Because obviously you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. But I agree 100%. I think like when you're probably like doing the stuff, a lot of bands on the road or doing their own thing, they kind of lose grip with other bands. It's almost like a passing, like hi, and you're just doing your thing for your sound that you develop, where you make time to take in your influences and listen to local bands. Like you said, you go and see local bands and support the local scene as well as other bands when you're on tour and things in other bands. I think it helps develop you the whole time. Like you said, like even watching films and stuff, even live, you hear those things and go, yeah, that's great. Like, that's really cool. How he does that, and or she does that, and
Yeah.
and it just, I think it's so important because I think it helps the growth in you as a musician to like grow as a musician.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something you could learn. Some of these piano players, songwriters, they know way more music theory than you do, and they can teach you. And then you could listen to these other bands that play three chords, but they can still teach you stuff, stuff that right in front of your eyes that you didn't see. So, my advice is to just keep learning, keep writing songs, and it can only help. Um, well, Jeremy, I have to actually walk my dog, so
Oh, bless him. No, it's
you would know that you have beautiful.
the most important.
You have. I love when you put up your pet pictures.
Thank you.
But as I guess as just a final thing to say, I want to thank you for the interview. I want to thank you for the opportunity to reach your friends and fans. Um, please, everyone who's checking this out, my new album is called Whore of Babylon, and my band is called Mike LePond's Silent Assassins. As Jeremy was so kind to purchase the whole package, thank you so much. You're the best, and I hope you like it. And the first album too. Yes, he got the whole package deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm still waiting for mine. I had to order a shirt myself. So it's on Silver Lining Music. You can find the album literally anywhere, or you could go to michaellepondsilentassassins.com. Again, thank you to everybody. Thank you, Jeremy. And let's do this again. Let's do this again.
Oh, definitely. And when you, I know Mike was saying about all the links before. I'll post them in the comments and check out Horror Babylon and all his previous work, and anything else he's done is just it's just awesome. It's a brilliant Horror Babylon album, and I can't be more humble and honoured to have you on this. I think it's really lovely you made the time, and I love meeting you the first time and obviously being your friend so long and working with you. And I'll also post Last of Four in there if anyone wants to check when we worked together as well on the song we did together for my solo project. And definitely we'll do another one, and enjoy walking your lovely dog. And you know me, I love my animals, as you said. And have a nice day. Thank you so much. Honestly.
All right. Okay, guys, thank you. And We'll see you later, okay, my brother?
Thank you. Take care, Mike. Thank you.